Thank you, brother, for that deadly presentation around treaty, and maybe you should jump on our table and talk around sovereignty and treaty. And we've actually written a book around what you just said, so we'll get one sent to you. It's the book of the 300 clans that are being denied in this state by the current treaty process. And there's members of that treaty process in the room. But anyway, I'm not talking about that. So our group was the largest group, where we had 29 people in our group, which I think was the majority. And we talked about sovereignty and what that means. So I'm going to go through them all, and I'll try and be quick. So we talked about the protocols of welcome to country, particularly this 3-day meeting, and not knowing who's in the room. You know, our way, Blackfella way, is we introduce each other and we know who's in the room. That hasn't been done. And that we need to abide by the founding principles of LORE. That's not being done. Our sovereignty has been maintained over 60,000 years, or the time of immemorial. That needs to be taken into account. British Constitution, it's not ours. How and why are we making changes to it? Stick it up, the Constitution. I'm reading what I've been told. Law, LORE, as it was in the beginning, will be what it is at the end. We are Holocaust survivors. People want to learn more about sovereignty and what that means. It's what our mothers fought for and talked about. Our say over our history. This process is no acknowledgement of our fighters. If you think that video was it, it's not. I'm here for sovereignty, a few people said. Proud of our young people taking up the lead or the fight. Respect the land, which seems to be lost somewhere. And treaty must have human rights laws. We crossed into the treaty realm. This process is highly flawed, not treated with proper respect, and there's not a good feeling amongst people. Some people don't want to be here. And the invite only was disgusting and disrespectful. When you hear old people saying things like that, it really gets to your heart. I hope it's getting to yours. Self-determination, our sovereign rights, hasn't been taken into account. The Black GST, which everyone thought, again, activists, you know, troublemakers, was around genocide being an issue, was around sovereignty being an issue, and treaty being an issue. Look how many people jumped on the treaty bandwagon. Info from this process is not the full picture, so you're only getting parts of what we're talking about. Governments have failed us time and time again. We're trusting this process. Closing the gap is one example. Yorta Yorta, extinguished by white law. We need a War Crimes Commission with the frontier wars included. Who's being held accountable for our ancestors being slaughtered in this country? There's been no Aboriginal flag in this room for 2 days. Shame. Oh, sorry, Mariki. Mariki, my sister's got one, and I had one yesterday, but that's our own. You know, you'd think that we'd be flying our flag proud in here. Australia's the only Commonwealth country without a treaty. I think most people know that. There's a breach of self-determination in this process. That was evident in yesterday's vote. And there's no peace in this country. We need to operate from family clan groups, not organisations, not corporations. And sovereignty means we own the land and the waters. Tribal governance needs to be restored. We decide. This government has no jurisdiction. The Australian Constitution is racist and unlawful. Laws come from England to protect the convicts. The moiety system that's been in existence since the beginning of time needs to be considered or respected. Uluru is a sacred site. Have those traditional owners welcomed constitutional meeting in May? There needs to be a proper plan to talk to our people and resources to do it the way we do it. That goes for the Victorian Treaty stuff too. Australia needs to pay their dues to our people. Bigger Aboriginal organisations are taking over the smaller ones. So smaller organisations are losing their rights and their self-determination, and their people are suffering in all of those areas that we shouldn't be, around health, education, employment, culture. Treaties around the world have started with the right intent, and some people are frightened of treaties because they can be broken, but they always start with the right intent, and they start with the law of the land. We understand that 10 delegates are the only ones that will have a say in Uluru. We're questioning that, and that this process is just another injustice to our people. We want our own sovereign lawyers. And what is the legal definition of a dialogue? Can there be legal recourse against this process? Or is it because it's called a dialogue that we can't? The process has to be in line with our cultural processes. And the treaty discussions and understanding needs to happen through family plans. We haven't finished our work. We're going to reconvene. So I'll skip that one. Talked about compensation, and that you fellas are only asking us to do the only thing that takes away our sovereignty. The reconciliation process 17 years ago was an extensive, was one of the biggest consultations in this country about Aboriginal people. And it was decided that this country is too racist to reconcile with our people. Shame. And the amount of work and resources and money that went into compiling the information around that is out there. We're not seeing that. So we need to be informed. We need to have free, informed prior consent before any process. Our rights need to be recognised, and we need to determine what we need in terms of services and who we put up. We need to be equal parties in the process. We need the resources to do that. There's a gap of information. And Reconciliation Australia, which is now a corporate entity, it's not what it was in the beginning, is the establishment deciding what we can have. And the question is, where are we enjoying the rights of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People in this country? And we signed off through our clans and our tribes and language groups. And we took a photo because we all had consent.